the early decades of the 20th century, the skies belonged to the bold. Aviation was still in its infancy, a field dominated by white men who saw themselves as pioneers of a new frontier. Airplanes were crude, dangerous machines, nothing like the sophisticated jets we know today. But while most people gazed upward with wonder, there was one woman who dared to claim the sky as her own, even when the world told her she had no place there. Her name was Bessie Coleman. She became the first black woman and the first Native American woman to earn a pilot's license. But her journey to that historic achievement was anything but easy. Her story is one of unshakable determination, resilience in the face of racism and sexism, and a dream so powerful it defied gravity itself. Humble beginnings. Bessie Coleman was born on January 26, 1892 in Atlanta, Texas, one of 13 children in a sharecropping family. Her father, George Coleman, was of Native American and African American descent, while her mother, Susan, was African American. The family's life was marked by hardship and poverty. From an early age, Bessie was forced to confront the harsh realities of segregation and racism in the Jim Crow South. Schools for black children were poorly funded, and opportunities for advancement were rare. Still, Bessie showed promise. She was a bright student who loved math, though her education was often interrupted when she had to work alongside her family in the cotton fields. At the age of 23, Bessie moved to Chicago, part of the Great Migration of African Americans seeking better opportunities in the North. She worked as a manicurist at a local barber shop, but it was in Chicago, listening to the stories of World War I veterans who returned from the battlefields of Europe, that Bessie discovered her dream. They spoke of daring pilots who soared through the skies in their flying machines, men who commanded the clouds with skill and courage. For Bessie, it was love at first hearing, the dream that almost died. There was only one problem: no American flight school would teach her, not because she lacked intelligence or drive, but because she was both black and a woman. In early 20th century America, those two identities closed almost every door, especially in aviation. But Bessie was not a woman who gave up easily. If she couldn't learn to fly in America, she would find a way to learn somewhere else. A friend and mentor, Robert Abbott, the influential founder of the Chicago Defender newspaper, encouraged her to study abroad. He told her that France, with its more progressive attitudes, might give her the chance she needed. Bessie took his advice to heart. She began learning French at night school, determined to overcome even the language barrier, if that's what it took to reach her dream. In 1920, with savings from her work and financial support from Abbott, she boarded a ship for Europe, France, the land of opportunity. Bessie arrived in France with little money, but an unshakable will. She enrolled in the Caudron Brothers School of Aviation in Le Crétoy, a prestigious flying school where some of the best European pilots trained. The program was grueling. Learning to fly in the 1920s meant mastering fragile planes that often crashed during training. Mechanical failures were common. Safety standards were primitive at best. Every flight could be your last. Yet Bessie thrived. On June 15, 1921, she achieved what no other woman of her background had before. She earned her international pilot's license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale (FAI). In doing so, she became the first black woman and the first Native American woman in history to hold such a license. The press back in the United States took notice. The Chicago Defender proudly announced her achievement, and for many in the African American community, Bessie became an instant symbol of hope and possibility. Queen Bess takes flight. When she returned to America, Bessie found herself a pioneer not only in aviation but in representation. She was nicknamed Queen Bess, and her flights drew crowds eager to see the young woman who had dared to do what others thought impossible. But being a pilot in the 1920s was about more than simply flying. Commercial airlines did not yet exist. Instead, pilots made their living through barnstorming, daring aerial shows that featured tricks, loops, and death-defying stunts. The danger was enormous, but so were the crowds who came to see them. Bessie realized that if she wanted to earn money and inspire others, she would need to become a barnstormer. She returned to Europe to undergo advanced training in stunt flying, studying with some of the most skilled aviators of the day. She learned how to perform barrel rolls, loop-the-loops, and tailspins, maneuvers that thrilled audiences and terrified the uninitiated. When she came back to the United States, she captivated audiences with her courage and skill. She performed at air shows across the country, often dressed in military-style uniforms that emphasized her commanding presence. She wasn't just a pilot, she was a performer, a celebrity, and an inspiration, a symbol of resistance. But Bessie's mission was bigger than fame. She refused to perform at venues that segregated black audiences, insisting that everyone be allowed to attend together. This was an incredibly bold stance in the 1920s when Jim Crow laws ruled the South and racism permeated every part of American life. Through her actions, Bessie showed that aviation could be a space of resistance, a way to challenge injustice from the skies. Her very existence as a black woman pilot was a powerful statement that the sky was open to everyone, no matter their race or gender. Dreams of a flying school. Even as her popularity grew, Bessie never lost sight of her larger goal. She wanted to open a flight school for African Americans, a place where young men and women could learn to fly without facing the barriers she had encountered. She spoke often about her dream, inspiring her audiences not just with her stunts, but with her words. "The air is the only place free from prejudices," she once said. For her, flying was not just a personal achievement, it was a way to lift others. Tragedy in Jacksonville. But like many pioneers, Bessie's story ended too soon. On April 30th, 1926, in Jacksonville, Florida, she prepared for a flight show that would feature one of her most daring stunts yet, a parachute jump from her plane. She wanted to survey the terrain from the air before the performance, so she climbed into her Curtiss Jenny biplane with her mechanic William Wills at the controls. As the plane flew, a wrench became lodged in the engine. The aircraft went into a sudden, uncontrollable dive. Bessie, who was not wearing a seatbelt because she needed to look over the edge for her stunt, was thrown from the plane. She fell to her death. She was only 34 years old. The nation mourned. Thousands of people attended her funeral in Chicago, and she was honored as a trailblazer who had dared to soar higher than anyone thought possible. Legacy that still inspires. Though Bessie Coleman's life was tragically cut short, her legacy has endured for nearly a century. She opened the skies for countless others, proving that determination could break through even the thickest walls of prejudice. In 1931, a group of African-American pilots formed the Bessie Coleman Aero Club in Los Angeles in her honor, continuing her dream of opening aviation to all. In 1995, the U.S. Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp bearing her image. Today, schools, roads, and air shows across the country bear her name. Her story also paved the way for later pioneers, including the Tuskegee Airmen of World War II and astronauts like Mae Jemison, the first black woman in space, who cited Bessie as one of her inspirations. Why Bessie Coleman still matters. Bessie's story is more than just a tale of aviation. It is about dreaming the impossible and refusing to let society's limitations define you. She lived at a time when both her race and gender were seen as insurmountable barriers. Yet she did not wait for permission. She made her own path, one flight at a time. Her courage reminds us that progress often comes from those who dare to challenge the status quo, who refuse to accept the word impossible. If you were inspired by Bessie's journey, don't let it end here. Hit that like button, share this story with others, and make sure you subscribe to our channel for more untold histories of pioneers who changed the world. Thank you for watching and see you next time.